Hello, everyone, and welcome to the League One bumper preview here on the Lower League Look for the League One podcast. I am once again joined by Callum. Good evening, Callum.
Good evening. Feels weird doing this on a Wednesday. We normally record on a Thursday, don't we? I've had
It
to
does.
rearrange my entire week just for this.
The
God damn
FA
the
would be
EFL.
proud. Yeah.
Well, yeah. God damn the EFL and their love for doing bank holiday fixtures. But no, football, more football. So I suppose, food, glorious food. Could you complain? Probably. We'll find a way.
Yeah, well, I'm off to Lincoln on Friday, so I'll be testing
Welcome.
probably a pie, I would imagine, of some sort.
It's all right. Have a hot dog. Have a Lincolnshire sausage while you're here.
I might do, actually, because I had a
What's
Lincolnshire
your
sausage
what's your
once.
plan for after the game? What are you doing after the game?
I am on the supporters coach, to be honest, because
So
I
you're
don't trust.
straight off.
Yeah, I don't trust the train network in this country to get the
Fair
trains.
enough.
And the train was like 55 quid and the coach is 30-ish. So I just thought, I'm saving myself 20 quid. But usually we get there around 1:30-ish. So if you're there before the game, have
I'll be
a
at work.
lower league look meetup.
I'll be at work, so
No.
I'll be covering the game, but from inside the radio studio. So if you were about after the game, I could have come and said hi, but you're already running off. You're getting out of Lincoln,
Yeah,
which
unfortunately.
some would say I'm not blaming you for that, but there we go.
No, I'll be seeing Jamie from the review
Yes.
podcast just before the game. So it's a lower league look, Sinsel Bank or whatever you're the LNER Stadium takeover this weekend. But yeah, we'll get on to Lincoln versus later on a bit later. So with this week being like a bank holiday, there is no review show on Saturday or Sunday. So myself and Callum have decided it'd be a brilliant idea to cover Monday's fixtures as well. So what we've done, we've picked two games from Friday, and they are Fleetwood versus Cheltenham and Lincoln versus Leyton Orient, mainly because we just want to talk bollocks about our own teams.
It does make complete sense for this week.
It does. And then on Monday, we've only picked the one fixture, which is the top of the table clash between Portsmouth and Derby, mainly again because if we tried to pick another fixture, we would be repeating the same teams we do every week. For example, Stevenage, your Boltons. So we've tried to divert away from them as much as possible while still covering the bigger games.
We don't know what the league will look like, do we? Come Monday, it could be completely different.
No, Port Vale somehow get another 1-0 victory after being dominated.
Relegation zone. Something like that.
So in terms of last week, obviously there was 3 games. We have Burton versus Port Vale, which none of us got correct because Port Vale won 1-0. We had Northampton versus Derby, which again we both got wrong because Northampton beat Derby.
I mean, we should have known Derby are almost the Portsmouth of this season, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just bottle jobs.
And they could well still be bottle jobs as well with the games they've got coming up. And then it was Carlisle versus Stevenage, and until the 95th minute, Callum, your 2-1 Carlisle prediction was correct. Before they levelled it in the final minute, and my outcome become correct after a 0-0 draw.
Oh, fuck's sake. So you beat it, but you beat me because of a 96th minute fucking equaliser. Oh, Steve Evans!
And did you? And I don't know if you listened to his interview after. He didn't blame the referee at all.
Did he not? How weird! How weird!
He's also today been given a further 1-match ban for breaching whatever EFL rule they have nowadays.
He breached the fact that he wasn't. He's got a ban for not serving a ban, which just makes you think: how many times can he do that? Can he just keep not doing his ban?
Just get in another game.
But, can he just do that? Because that would make sense, right?
I suspect after 3 times there would be quite a big punishment, like a 6-month ban or stadium ban. I would suspect would come out of it if he continued to do it.
Evans, he'll just buy the McGregors or something.
Because it also happened to Wellens earlier in the season. He got sent off, and he sat in view of the pitch on our balcony at the top, and he wasn't allowed to do that. He had to go to sit in the dressing rooms near enough.
Sit in the dressing room like you're a kid on the steps.
On the naughty corner.
Sit on the naughty step, you silly boy.
Yes. I
Oh,
don't. Have
dear.
you released your? Speaking of Orient, we released our season card prices, and it's an interesting topic in terms of pricing of football. Before we move on to our first game, our season cards for the West Stand, which is like our main stand of where people sit, usually the older generation, it's around, I think it was £450. If you sit behind the goal where the atmosphere is, it was £414. And because of the EFL new TV bollocks where they've got to put cameras everywhere, people in our family stand behind the goal have been moved from their seats
I
because
saw
they've got
something
to
like
put
that.
a camera
Yeah.
there, which did cause some discontent. Orient have offered to move them fans wherever they want in the ground and give them the price of the family stand, which I think is a good gesture. But I think when the new season starts, there's going to be a very big discussion about this TV deal because I can't remember the exact figure, but I think it's about I reckon 20 to 30 of your games a season will be covered on Sky in some way or another. So it kind of
Yeah.
defeats, unless you are religious about going for, which some people are. I love going to football on a Saturday, and regardless of TV, I would always try and go to football on a Saturday. But if you, especially in nowadays and age where football is quite expensive, I saw West Ham put their ticket season card prices up by £100, and they're already extortionate. It's going to push more and more people to obviously stay at home.
I think
And
it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I think I also remember seeing that something to do with like a lot of the games won't even be at 3 p.m. anymore.
yeah,
Like
they have.
to me, I mean, I'm not a traditionalist about many things, but to me, all like football should be at 3 p.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
it just should be, especially I can sort of get the need in the Premier League to spread it out, but at this level, it just should be at 3 p.m.
Totally
And
agree.
I sometimes get it, like obviously if there's policing issues and stuff like that,
Mhm.
spread it out. But in terms of what you say about tickets, it's quite interesting actually because Lincoln released some kind of insights into some of their fixture news at the minute. And the 240 first time fans for the Orient
Mm,
fixture is a big one for Lincoln. 300 new gold members. I think is effectively a season ticket thing
yeah.
for 2024-25. So, I mean, I think a lot of that's got to do with a good form, and it's quite easy to convince someone to buy a season ticket when you're on a
Mm,
form like Lincoln are. So their fixtures news is their ticket news is good, looking good, I suppose, for Lincoln.
mhm.
But in terms of the new TV stuff, it's one of them. You want to see as many games broadcast, of course you do, for a lot of fans, but you also want to make sure that the stadiums are full. I mean,
Yeah,
Lincoln on the Friday game sold out.
yeah.
That is incredible for Lincoln. That's going to be over 10,000 people watching a League One game in the middle of Lincoln, which is in the middle of, respectfully to the city that I live in, but fuck nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
we're in the middle of nowhere, about 45 minutes, an hour away from Nottingham, the closest city, really.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's that mix, isn't it? You want to make sure they're getting the broadcast revenue because that's where the money is, isn't it? But
Yeah,
football's not football. We saw during COVID, football's not football without the fans. It's interesting
exactly.
without the fans, but it's not football without the fans.
Yeah, it's that old cliche, isn't it? If you take, it's like when the Super League was around, wasn't it? Fans
Mhm.
literally protested, and it worked.
Yeah,
Um, I do feel the regulator when he comes in or she, um,
or I
it's
suppose, because it'll be a group of people, and it won't be
yeah,
just.
yeah, that's true. Um, Hopefully, we get away from football being unaffordable and much more of a sort of a family feel because if you let's say you wanted to go to a Premier League game like a Category D sort of game, which is like their lowest game,
Yeah.
someone who if you wanted to have, let's say you're a father of two kids and they both want to go to the football. I'm going to use West Ham as an example because I know what their pricing is. You're looking at about 150 quid just for your tickets, at least. Then you've got to pay for your travel. They're going to want
Mm.
some sort of food at the game because they will be hungry. So you're looking at, let's say, £200 to watch a game of football, and it's just not. I don't care if it's the top level, and it's 90 minutes of football, and we could go on all day about that.
I do think it's interesting in terms of the tickets, right? I just thought about this before we go on to that first game. Lincoln are currently selling they're selling their tickets at the price they would if they were a League One club, you'd assume, because the decision around pricing was made. You'd imagine when the club have realised, we'll probably be a League One side. Yeah. This is the pricing we've got to predict for next season and get some sales sorted, right? But what happens if, we keep talking about Lincoln might get promoted? If they do get promoted, they're already running on a huge deficit because they ain't going to be able to afford championship players with a League One ticket sale budget, are they? So that was just an interesting thought I just had.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't, I know mathematically it was still possible probably when they decided on it. So I'm surprised they didn't have like a League One early bird price. But if we got promoted, the ticket increases by, I don't know, 50 quid, but it's still an early bird price. And then, but who knows? I don't work in marketing or commercial, so I don't understand any of it.
Let's be honest, it's probably the best for both of us that neither of us work in that side of things.
Football, 50 quid. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
For the season.
Just convince someone to pay 50 quid if their club's successful.
So speaking of £50, I tell you a club I wouldn't pay £50 a season to watch this season. Ooh. Fleetwood versus Cheltenham.
Oh, there we go. Already getting the shade in.
Now, this has perspective to be possibly their biggest game of the season. I know Cheltenham still have to play Carlisle, but in the grand scheme of things, if Cheltenham want to stay up, they've got to win because they are obviously 4 points off Cambridge with a game in hand. And for Fleetwood, they've played a game more than Cambridge, 2 more than Cheltenham, but are in quite decent form, Fleetwood.
Yeah. Well, you say decent form. Guess what They're
not losing. Oh, I've got
my famous soccerstats.com's form table.
Please sponsor us.
Proudly not sponsored by soccerstats.com. There are 4 teams that haven't lost in their last 6. Do you want to have a guess?
Haven't lost in their last 6. Right, I'm not going to look at this screen because I've got the league table, so I don't want to look at that. Fleetwood are 1. Lincoln are 2.
Yeah.
I'll go with Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Because they're top. Bolton have lost recently. So have Barnsley because they got tonked by you. Charlton.
There you go. You named all of them. But Lincoln obviously sit top. Portsmouth sit 3rd in the form table. This is last 6.
Mm-hmm.
Charlton 5th. This is the story of Fleetwood. So far down, they sit 15th in the form table, which, is all right form, but it shows that if you're unbeaten, you'd expect to be higher than 15th in the form table in the last 6, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a difficult one for Fleetwood, isn't it? Because obviously they were getting battered every single week. And then since the start of the year, they lost by the odd goal to Cambridge. They lost by the goal to Portsmouth. They drew with Wickham. They beat Port Vale, beat Bristol Rovers. Lost by the odd goal to you, which is bloody impressive at the moment, considering your rich reign of form. Drew at Reading, lost to Barnsley, and then have remained unbeaten. But like you say, the draws are...
It's so bad that they've only got 1 win in 9, but have only lost 2 in that period. They've only conceded 2. They've only lost twice in the last 12, which is a run stretching back to the 27th of January. If you say them stats to a Derby fan, Derby have lost twice in the last 6 alone. It is incredible that it is quite impressive how. I don't know how to say it. It is very impressive how unbeatable they are. How hard it is to beat them. I think that's probably the best phrase. But then again, how impossible it is for them to win.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously Charlie Adams gone in. He went in around the end of January, didn't he? I think it was near enough deadline day when he went in. And he's got them organised and he's getting the best out of... He's obviously made Brendan Sarpong Wiradoo his captain and he's getting the best out of him. But they've got to play Cheltenham and they've got to play Burton. But then they've still got to play Oxford, Blackpool, Northampton, and Posh, and none of them are easy. No. I think a lot just relies on this weekend. I think for Fleetwood, just because they've played more games, but for Cheltenham, because they haven't won in 6 as well since they had that little streak of winning 3 in a row, and we're all going, "Oh my god, they may stay up," especially me. But I think if you're a Cambridge fan, you're probably absolutely shitting yourself and hoping for a draw, because they won't beat Barnsley this weekend.
I think which this is as close as you get to a relegation 6-pointer.
Yeah.
On account of the fact that whoever wins this is most likely to escape the drop.
Yeah.
Whoever loses this is condemned to League Two. Yeah. And if they both draw, it doesn't really help anyone. You kind of want it to be like a sack. You'd hope it gets to the 90th minute, right? And they just both captains have a meeting in the centre circle and just go, "You've played the best this game. I'll let you have the winner. So go on and save yourself," kind of thing. You'd love to see that. Could you imagine it? But I don't know.
The corruption in the EFL.
No, not corruption. It purely just be, on sportsmanship behaviour. You've outplayed us. It's 1-1 going into the final bit, and whoever scored the best goal gets all 3 points. That kind of thing would be incredible. Bit on Cheltenham, though. They're on the longest winless run, actually, since the start of the season. Since that huge, scoreless, winless run they had at the start. This is currently the longest they've gone without winning a game. In that, and it's 6 games, they've only scored 3 goals. On points per game, though, they're predicted, that's their points per game, either home or away, versus their opponent's points per game, home and away. They're favourites to win 3 of their next games, which would put them on to 44 points. So, if we're saying Shrewsbury are relatively safe, 44 points might be enough to get it done this year. So, if they win the games they're favourites for, they've got a chance. Saying that, this isn't one of them. They are predicted to lose this on points per game. They're only scoring 1 goal a game in the last 8, but that's a 23.5% increase on the rest of the season, which I suppose when you go so far without scoring, it's not possible. Yeah. But Fleetwood, of course, won the reverse fixture 2-0. But funnily enough, that's the only game that Cheltenham have lost against the rest of the bottom 6 this season.
I like that statistic. That's an interesting statistic. I like that.
So Burton, Cambridge, Port Vale, Fleetwood, and Carlisle. The only game Cheltenham have lost out of them is the reverse fixture of this game. Just to note, they are unbeaten against Portsmouth, by the way. Picked up 4 points against them this year. So there you go.
You could probably relegate that bottom 6, couldn't you? And nobody would bat an eyelid this season. You could just relegate all of them.
Yeah, but are there 6 teams from League Two that you'd like to replace them with? Because
no, because they're all better than them. You got Mansfield are probably better than them. Stockport are better than them. Wrexham will just spend a load of money. Crewe have been good this season, but probably aren't strong enough. Barrow are okay.
Bring Forest Green Rovers back.
Yes, do that. They're even worse. Bring back the vegan pies or whatever they have.
Just mainly for the engagement of people shouting, "We hate them." I wouldn't complain. But no, with this one, it does have kind of a draw written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Cheltenham a bit more, if I'm honest.
Cheltenham.
I think I'm going to go with my my heart on this one and go 2-1 Cheltenham, just purely because I like them a bit more than Fleetwood.
Oh, you've gone Cheltenham to score 2 away from home. That's interesting.
Well, you never know. There's nothing more like me on this podcast than rambling off a load of stats and facts and then just completely going against it.
No, they've scored 11 away goals this season.
Well,
they've only conceded 24.
13 is unlucky for some, and probably for me as well, because they ain't going to score 2 goals. But we might as well. Yeah, there's a hole here. I've dug myself one, so we'll go with 2-1.
So I don't know what to do. I'm not going to go with Cheltenham win just purely because you have. I'm doing a U here. I'm going to go against what you've done, and I'm going to go 2-1 to Fleetwood. So I'm going to flip your result around.
Oh dear. Right. Well, that's a 2-2 draw or a 1-1 draw nailed on, isn't it? There we go.
Based on last week. Yes,
Lovely to see it. Lovely to see it.
So right, we better talk about the elephant in the room. Lincoln versus
This
Leyton
civil
Orient.
war now. Can we
It's
put like a
now,
divide in the middle of the
yeah,
screen and just like
just punching match. So obviously, I think you're going to be the favourites. Obviously, at home, have scored 16 in your last 3. You've got a squad that's gelled, especially defensively, conceded 1 in your last 6. I
can
think
you
it's at
name us a
home.
fit midfielder that we've got?
Teddy Bishop, 80% fit. That'll do.
That is exactly the quote I've given. Actually,
Yeah.
there you go. I'll give you that one.
But conveniently, Orient's last 5 games have had no more than 1 goal in. We've had a 1-0, a 1-0, a 0-0, a 1-0, and a 1-0. So we're like polar opposites. You're free scoring and don't concede any. We don't score many and don't concede any. So
Yeah.
this game, in our last 10, we've not gone off the boil. We've won 5, drawn 1, and lost 4, which to me we've still had a very strong season, and it's got to a place where all our best players are injured. You've got Dan Ajay, you've got Jordan Graham, you've got Theo Archibald, you've got Dan Happy. They're all probably starters and they're all injured. And to be where we are, I think is really, really impressive. Away from home, we have beaten Portsmouth. We smacked Portsmouth. That was our best performance of the season. We gave Bolton a bloody good game other than the first 15 minutes. We drew away at Posh. We lost in the last minute against Barnsley away from home. We beat Oxford away. We've beaten Stevenage away. And we drew a Blackpool away. So against the top 9, we've only lost to Bolton away and Barnsley, but haven't played Derby yet. So I like to think we're quite a good away team. What does concern me is our defence, to be honest, especially with all your goals, your wing backs flying forward. Your centre halves just stay, and the way we play, it depends what sort of lineup he goes. If he goes with last week with a Pratley and El Mazouni midfield, it doesn't give El Mazouni that license to roam and create like a front 6 sometimes. Because sometimes we'll play like a 3-1-6 in possession. But if he doesn't play, if Pratley plays, it's more of like a 3-2-5. And we've got to somehow overload your back 3, one of the most solid bases in the league. We've got pace going forward. It just depends if Ollie O'Neill's fit, and we just pray he is. Otherwise, we really don't have much pace in the team. It means Joe Pigott will probably play. But to be fair, he's taken a lot of criticism. The last 2 games, I've criticised his work rate quite heavily, but the last 2 games he's really put a shift in. But he can be isolated at times, which probably doesn't help. And against a team like yourselves, I am rather concerned this could be a bit of a basketball match.
The issue is, I genuinely couldn't tell you what our starting 11 would be. Like, I would really struggle to tell you what our midfield 3 will be. Like, we'll probably play Teddy Bishop and Jack Moylan and Danny Mandroyu would be my guess at a middle 3, but none of them are holding midfield. None of them are holding midfielders at all. My guess would be Danny Mandroyu as a midfield, as your holding one, because he kind of played that role, but he doesn't play the same role as Urahan.
Yeah, he's a big miss, isn't he? Getting that bit of a silly sending off, really, wasn't it?
Was
kind of needless.
Silly yellow. It was such a silly yellow card, and it was so silly actually that I think as our CEO Liam Scully has picked up he's been fined or charged or whatever for having a go at the match official because of that yellow card. I think it seems to be the theory. So I genuinely couldn't tell you. My theory that what I'd sort of like to see is Jacko play there. I'd be very interested to see if he plays one of our. So obviously our back 3 of O'Connor, Rowan, and Mitchell is quite solid. So he won't push one of them forward. And the role that Urahan plays is that holding midfield, doesn't really care about stats or anything. He just is a solid person. So my guess would be Jacko or Mandroyu. But I could not tell you that midfield. And if you take control of that midfield, then you win the game. I think it is my theory. If you can overwhelm that midfield, you win, because we play through the midfield. it's such a statement, but we play in thirds.
Okay. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
win the ball, we give it to our midfield three, and if it's with Arahan, you can guarantee it's probably going out wide. If it ends up with Moylan or Mandroyu or Bishop or something like that, they're probably going to run through and then play it wide or have a crack from 30 yards. But the big news for this, which I think is very interesting and again could change how we line up, is Ben House is fit.
Bollocks. I was kind of hoping he wouldn't be
Ben
fit.
House is back fit. So I question whether we've seen in recent weeks, we play a front two of Taylor and McCarmer perhaps, and then with Ben House as a cam with Bishop and Mandroyu in the middle. But then where does Moylan play?
It's a good selection headache. Really,
it's a great selection headache. Only because we've got too many forward players and we haven't got a backup Arahan, and we haven't pretty much for this whole season. Probably Oishin would have played, Oishin Gallagher, one of the youth players, but he's gone out to Ireland on loan. So I couldn't tell you what our midfield is going to be. And when I get the team sheet, in my press box about 1:45, before we're able to report it at 2, that's what I'm going to be looking for, is what is that midfield. The back five I could write. The front two of probably House and Taylor I could write.
Yeah.
But then does he move House back? Does he? I could not tell you, and it's been the thing I've been thinking about all week, or ever since Arahan got sent off. And you could, it was very interesting. The atmosphere in that stadium. I think we were winning 4-1 at the time, and you saw Arahan get sent off, and the atmosphere for 5 minutes or so afterwards, you could hear, was just dead.
Yeah.
And immediately, as soon as that red card thing, she's just like, "What do we do now?"
Yeah.
And House is back, but I have no clue what that midfield's going to look like. And if you take control, you'll win the game.
Yes, because I think the reverse fixture, obviously, you won 1-0. I believe that was Skubala's first game in charge, and I've never seen a more. It was a difficult game, obviously, because it was rearranged after the death of Derek Reynolds. It was a really difficult game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Skubala's first game was a 1-0 loss to Stevenage. That 1-0 was Skubala's first win in charge of Lincoln.
Gotcha. But it's I think for us, it's a must-win because we've got Posh on Monday.
It's a must-win. It's a must-win for us because this fixture. I know we've played Barnsley and I know we've played other difficult teams, right? But this is the hardest fixture because we've had 13 days to overthink it.
Yeah,
we've got our best. I will say our best player, our player of the season, is out.
Yeah.
Arahan's out, and obviously fans might disagree that someone else will be player of the season, but Arahan is, for me, undoubtedly player of the season. Just pure, and this is him getting sent off has kind of proved that for me.
Yeah,
because it's left us with nowhere to go. So this is our toughest fixture of this run, right? If we win it, I will become a lot more confident, and I will be wearing my Lincoln City shirt for the next podcast, and I'll be shouting, "We're going to Wembley."
Where if we win, I'll be doing exactly the same.
Yeah, he'll be doing the same. So I really don't know. I could not tell you which way this is going to go.
For me, we've not got as many selection headaches, I don't think. I've not yet listened to Wellens' pre-match, but I suspect our back four will be normal because we've got two centre halves. Our full-backs, I suspect, will be Galbraith will probably come back in at right back, just because he gives us that little bit of extra impetus going forward and a bit more creativity. I suspect Tom James will play at left back.
I think the issue is you've got more players probably out injured.
Yeah.
But the player we have got, the main player we have got injured right now,
yeah,
is the biggest one. I'm not going to say the most vital player to a team in the league. But in terms of, how Arahan allows us to play, if you have that version of him in each team, which player makes a team allows a team to play how they want to, Arahan's got to be up there with the most important to his club in the league, easily.
Yeah, I'd say we've got 3 of, I think, our best 5 players out injured, and they have been for near enough the whole season, other than one. Happy's out and has been since the Wigan game, I think it was, and he's out for the season. Danajai has played about 12 games this season, and Jordan Graham played until October. And like Jordan Graham on his day is one of the best wingers in the league. Danajai, if fully fit and fully functional in the games I've seen him, is unplayable on his day. And then Dan Happy is a 6'4" left-footed centre half who's very, very good at passing and good in the air. So obviously we've got players that, like, we've played Ollie O'Neill out on the left. He's been a really, really good signing from Fulham. Shaq Ford isn't really a winger in my books. He's very good at taking people on, very good at coming inside, but his first touch is really poor. Saturiu has been away with Cyprus, and he's obviously our top scorer. George Monker's just come back from illness, so I would suspect he'd play El Mazzuni. I think he'll play Jordan Brown for legs over Pratley. He'll play Shaq Ford. He may play Monker over Saturiu in the 10, just because he's just come back from international duty. He'll play Ollie O'Neill if fit on the left, because he's had a hamstring injury. And then I would suspect Joe Pigott would lead the line over the 2 youngsters we've got. So I suspect...
What are you going for score-wise then? Because we could talk about this forever, but I feel like it's got to come down to those 2 numbers.
I would go 2-0 Lincoln, personally.
So this is one that I'm known for my jinxes. So I feel like I'm going to go 1-0 Orient.
Good, thank you.
I'm going to go 1-0 Orient. And if I'm right, I get points for the prediction table. If I'm wrong, I get to shout we're going to Wembley on this podcast. So, yeah, either way. But I think what we're best to do is we've spent so long talking about those first 2 games. We'll probably go over the rest of this week's fixtures after the break and then run through all the other fixtures on Monday after that, because we could talk about Lincoln Orient.
Oh, we could. I think. Yeah, I think it's probably, in my opinion, the best game on Friday.
Yeah.
And then obviously Portsmouth Derby is obviously the best one on Tuesday, because I actually missed that off our list.
Monday. You missed that off your list. It's the best game on Monday so much that it's on
Tuesday. So we'll quickly go to an ad break, because I am cautious now of we have been rambling on. So we'll quickly go to an ad break, and we'll see you momentarily. Cool. Welcome back to the League One preview bumper podcast. So obviously we have battered on about Lincoln Orient, so it's now time to very quickly go through the rest of the League One fixtures. So, are you ready for quick fire, Callum?
I'll make this as quick. 1 sentence to sum up each game, and I'll give you a prediction afterwards.
Barnsley versus Cambridge United, who are doomed, quite frankly.
Barnsley should see this as an opportunity to actually sort their shit out. I'll go with 2-0.
2-0. I have gone 3-1 Barnsley in that one. Derby versus Blackpool. Big game for Derby to bounce back after their defeat to Northampton last week. And Blackpool, as we know, their away form is a bit average, and they're still a bit hit and miss.
You question whether Derby are entering that bottle period. They were thinking they were out of it, but it looks like they're back in it. And Blackpool are enjoying a bit of a roller coaster season, quite like the pleasure beach that is in Blackpool. I'll go with a 2-0 Derby. What about you?
2-0. I've gone 1-1.
Interesting.
I think, yeah. Because but Mendes, Lang, and James Collins are back for Derby. Interestingly, so you've got Exeter versus an informed Charlton Athletic.
This one's interesting. There's an Exeter. They're becoming a bit of a meh team. They are that definition of like that 11th to 15th now is the nobodies this year. Now I think it's fair to say they've got nothing else to play for. They're not really in relegation trouble. So Charlton, if they win this, join that group. So I'll probably go with a 2-0 Charlton.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. 2-0 Charlton on that one. I'm not going to go
God
different
damn
on
it.
that one. Peterborough probably couldn't have picked a better game to try and bounce back after last week's defeat. They have got Carlisle United.
Did you mention cricket score? This is going to be like 4-0. We'll go. Fuck it. Fuck it. We'll go 4-0. I love you, Carlisle, and you know I've supported you through thick and thin this year.
Yeah,
but this is a 4-0.
I've gone 3-0.
Do we get a closest one wins? Like whoever gets closest to that score specifically gets the points, right?
If they score 8, I'll give you a point because that'd be double.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Port Vale versus Bristol Rovers. I don't really have anything to say on that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm. It's one of them that if Port Vale win, then all of a sudden, fucking Darren Moore can get knighted and the keys to the city, because they're probably back in the fight to survive. When we said that they were doomed, so. And Bristol Rovers are just so meh.
They're better, aren't they? Yeah.
They're just so meh that you just not very interested by them, are you? So I'll go with a 1-0 Port Vale again. They'll scrape it.
Oh, I have gone 1-1 in that game. Reading, who obviously, thankfully, got some good news. I think it was yesterday at the time of recording. Yes. In talks for a consortium to buy the training ground, the ground, and the club, which is brilliant news. Faced Northampton Town, obviously, after the back of their impressive, shall we say, victory over Derby. But before I give you your prediction, did you see the Northampton mascot last week with me?
No.
So he picked up the ball when Derby had a corner, just rolled it away. The Derby player pushed him. It was like literally the faintest touch ever, and the mascot just started rolling on the floor. It was brilliant.
Don't blame it. Incredible stuff. Reading, Northampton. You again, it's just a bit. Reading need the win. Don't get me wrong. If Reading win this, they're safe, and it would be such a Northampton thing and kind of typify their season to beat Derby and then lose to Reading. So just for the sake of the shits and gigs, we'll go 2-1 Reading.
Oh, you nicked my score.
No, for God's sake.
I'm going to go 1-0 Reading then.
Okay.
I'll change mine to 1-0 Reading. Shrewsbury Town versus Oxford United, an Oxford side who are somehow still in 6th place, and a Shrewsbury side who probably have stayed up now, even with their 29 goals in 39 games.
That's got what is the record for the lowest goals scored for a surviving team in League One?
Yeah, I'm going to find that out, and I'm going to tell you next week. I'm going to find that out.
That's got to be 29. You can't imagine them scoring more than 35 this year, really, can you?
Well, we've got them on the final day, and if they bloody score more than 2, I am going to be the most miserable person on earth. I've criticised them all season long.
Which is exactly why they'll beat you. But this one, 0-0. Oxford.
0-0.
You'd think if you're in Oxford's position, you'd be, you've coasted on your luck so far that they'd finally think, yeah, let's do something. But if Oxford don't get playoffs, that's Buckingham's job. It's the most risky thing in the world if they don't get playoffs from the position he inhabited.
Totally agree. All right. Stevenage, who are 20th in the form table in their last 10, face Bolton Wanderers.
Oh, just Bolton, I beg you win. I've never wanted Bolton Wanderers to win a match so hard. So I'm going to wish it into existence. They're going to win 2-0. The first one will be a penalty, and the second one will be a goal line scramble, and Steve Evans will just genuinely combust. He will explode.
Like a tomato after the game.
No. He will actually explode, so much that his puffer jacket just.
I've got the 3-1 to Bolton in that one.
How many times do you reckon we can put Steve Evans slander in a title in a row?
Not this week.
We should. We did it last week, didn't we? We can do it
and
again.
the week before that. we've got Wigan versus Burton next. And anything but a Wigan win, I think, is
shocking. Yeah,
yeah.
Burton just
Bye
like
bye
they
Burton.
had it all in they had it in their hands, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like Burton should not be in this position, but they are. So, like, just quickly on this, I always see, these tiers about what league a team should be in. Everyone predicts Burton to be in the League Two, but they've got the setup of a league. They're flipping training facilities at the Premier League level.
Yeah, they're probably England's training, aren't they?
So, yeah, I'll go with a 2-0 Wigan win. And if Burton win this, I don't know what I'll do. Something stupid, probably.
I've gone for 1-0 to Wigan. So we've got all of Monday's fixtures now. So we're just covering.
Have you missed
Derby
Wycombe Portsmouth?
Oh yeah, I have. Yes.
You hate Portsmouth. What is it with Portsmouth? You hate Portsmouth.
They're just up. They're just gone. And Wycombe are just mid-table and in a cup final.
No, but Wycombe will win this 1-0.
I should probably make title bold in my document, shouldn't I? This is how I miss games, because I don't have things in bold.
Wycombe will win 1-0. There you go. It's my bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction, and I've gone 2-1 to Portsmouth.
Just because Wycombe do Wycombe things, innit?
Could you imagine if Portsmouth lost their last 7 games and then didn't go up?
Yeah. I could. No, legitimately, that is a world you can imagine. So
that is a Portsmouth thing to do. Right, so Monday's fixtures. The big one. First versus second, and it will be first versus second, regardless of what happens on Friday. The gap could be 1 point to Bolton. For Derby, they obviously have played a game more now than Bolton, and they lost to Northampton, which, in the grand scheme of things, could be quite bad for them, because Peterborough still have 2 games in hand. And you don't want to be that team that drops into the playoffs at the end of the season, because you have no momentum going into them.
Well, let's think about it this way. If the scores go how I accurately always predict they'll go, this game would be... Or did I predict Derby to win? I can't remember. But if Derby do win and Portsmouth lose, this game could genuinely be for top spot.
Yeah.
Couldn't it? So, it's one of them that the context all just does depend on what happens on Saturday. We are predicting 2 game weeks in advance, so all the stats that we're about to give you could completely change.
Yeah, so I have limited, this is probably the first time ever I'm going to say this, for this week, we've very much limited our stats in terms of, we're not saying XGs or anything like that, because by the time it goes to the game, it's false.
It's different, yeah.
So I've completely ignored it. The reverse fixture was 1-1 between the sides. Yeah. The last 3 meetings have been draws. Portsmouth top 3 have 2 players with over 10 goals in Cobb Bishop and Paddy Lane. They have the best defence in the league, the most clean sheets in the league, the second most expected goals, and the most big chances. And they are stats that I don't think will change before the weekend, which is why I've said them.
Yeah. I think my biggest thing for this game is Derby, no matter what they've done, have either been very unconvincing or very convincing. There's never been any consistency in their games. Like, you look at their record against even the top 7. They beat Stevenage at home but lost away. They lost to Oxford at home but beat them away. Beat Barnsley at home but lost to them away. Lost to Peterborough at home but beat them away. And then beat Bolton at home and lost away.
So their away form against the top 6 is shit.
Well, it's exactly the same. They've lost 3 away and lost 2 at home and won the opposite. So their record is roughly similar at home and away against both. Portsmouth, in fact, is the only team that they've drawn against. Derby don't tend to draw a lot of games, if we're honest.
No, they've drawn 2 away from home out of 20.
So, yeah, I think this game's really interesting, because Derby, if they show up, I think Derby could beat Portsmouth, and Derby on their day could be the best team in the world. Well, not in the world, in the league. Derby County win the Champions League. Derby could be, we see it on occasion where Derby County know how to see out a game like Stevenage. Like, then they rolled over Port Vale and Bristol Rovers. Interestingly, though, this is a stat that I didn't realise. They've already broken their record for the most away wins this season. Despite losing to Northampton away, they've beaten their club record for the most away wins this season. So, interesting stat. And they do tend to score in their away games this season. 80% of them they've scored in. Obviously, that stat won't change because they're at home against Blackpool. You'd expect Derby after this game. Derby are favourites to win their remaining fixtures. They've got obviously they've got Blackpool and Portsmouth, but they've got Wycombe, Leyton Orient. They've got Cambridge and Carlisle. You'd certainly expect them to beat. You'd certainly expect them to beat Cambridge and Carlisle. You'd probably expect them to beat Wycombe, and no offence, you'd expect them, especially at home, to beat Orient.
Yeah, you would. Yeah,
you'd expect them to beat Blackpool. This is the only game on paper that they are favourites to lose. You'd think.
I'm going to throw a little spanner out there. So let's say this is for a neutral best case scenario. Derby win Friday and Monday. They go and beat Portsmouth. Portsmouth lose to Wycombe, and then obviously lose to Derby. Portsmouth are down 83. You give 6 to Derby, which gives them 84. So Derby go top. Bolton beat Reading on Monday, and they beat whoever they were playing on Stevenage on Friday, and let's give them 6 points, which gives them 80. All of a sudden, after 2 games in a very short amount of time, it's all a bit congested again. So from a neutral point of view,
you want Derby win. You want the neutral wants Derby to win. Yeah. Unfortunately, the neutrals wanted Portsmouth to bottle it for the last 10 games, and they seem to not be doing that. No. So, in the interest of not wanting to predict too much in advance, because we don't know what the context of Monday's games will be, at the minute, I really don't know. But you can imagine a hit and run from Derby. You can.
You can, with the experience in that Derby team.
Yeah. You can visualize it now. The Derby fans celebrating and saying we're the biggest team in wherever, but everything in me, and I hate it, is saying Portsmouth will win 2-0.
2-0, okay. Well, I've gone the opposite. I've gone 1-0 to Derby.
Yeah, but this is it. You cannot predict how this game will play out. It will either be a hit and run from Derby. Either way, Portsmouth will be dominant here. You've got to predict 100%. Going into this. It's at Fratton Park, Tuesday night, under the lights, 8 o'clock kickoff. I presume it's on TV, right?
I would hope so. I hope Sky have used their marbles here. I can check that.
Well, I'll double check while we're thinking. But you'd think that, I don't know. It's gonna be close, and whatever happens, you can.
If Portsmouth win, they're up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, if Portsmouth win, they're up, and whatever happens in this game, they're going to. Portsmouth are going to be the team that. What's it called? Portsmouth are going to be the team that are trying to dominate. Yeah. You'd think, wouldn't you?
I would suspect Portsmouth are going to have 60% of 70% of the possession. I just think Derby will score a set piece. To be honest,
can confirm this game is on Sky.
Good,
because it's obviously they've got a full day of Championship on the 1st, but on Tuesday it starts at 7:30. Portsmouth versus Derby is on Sky Sports.
So if you're into your mental side, the only time Portsmouth have beaten Derby in the last 14 years was 2-1 in the League Cup in 2015. The other results, dating back to 2010, Derby have won in 2010, then drew, then won, then lost in the Cup, then drew. And the last 2 visits have been 1-1.
This was a Premier League game, wasn't it? There's been plenty of times that this has been a Premier League game.
2008, I reckon it would have been.
Yeah, so you think like how we've kind of predicted both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's either a Portsmouth walk it,
Yep.
and get a comfortable 2-0 win, or Derby hold firm and either play for a draw, so a 0-0, which doesn't help them, but it
No.
kind of keeps them in touch for the win for the league. You'd think if worse comes to worse, it keeps them vaguely in touch, or they get the win in
Yep.
like the 58th minute or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And they hold out.
Yeah, it's going to be a. I will definitely be tuning in, to be honest.
Well, you got to be stupid not to, haven't you?
Yeah, I think for next season we should definitely try and do like some League One, watch along or something. Especially when our team, like for Friday, for example, if none of us were going, obviously we can stream the game on iFollow or whatever you want, and do a watch along, and it's just be us just screaming at our own players.
All right, we've done them games. So in the interest of keeping it under an hour and you not getting bored of listening to us, shall we do quick fire for the rest of these games?
All right,
then?
quick fire. We've got 11 games, and I'm pretty sure I've written them all down this time.
I'll remind you because I've got the full fixtures here, so I'll remind you if you don't. Blackpool Wickham. Again, Blackpool, if they don't win at the weekend, they're very much in no man's land. I don't want to say they'd be out of it, but they'd be fighting to remain in it. In the playoff hunt if they don't win at the weekend. So, but then again, it's kind of a good fixture to kick boost whatever playoff push you want to go with. So we'll go with, let's go with a 1-0 Blackpool.
1-0 Blackpool. I've gone for 2-1 to Blackpool in that. Bolton Wanderers versus Reading.
Yeah, this will be an easy 3-0 for Bolton, I think.
3-0.
No offense to Reading, but I can kind of see Bolton just cruising.
Yeah, I think I've gone for 2-0 in that one.
Did you go for 3-0 and just changed it?
No, I went for 2. Just. I was toying between 2 and 3, and I've gone for 2. Bristol Rovers versus Shrewsbury.
Wins the award for the most pointless game of the season so far. Actually, to be fair, Wigan versus Wickham would probably be more pointless. Bristol versus Shrewsbury, 1-1. No one cares.
I've gone for 1-0 to Bristol Rovers.
It's not a hot take because I don't actually think it would ever happen. But just games like this, you just wish, like, no one cares about. Do you know what I mean? Like, make the tickets cheaper for this game.
Yes.
Because no one wants to go to watch it.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's a prime opportunity just to get fans in the door, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to miss one game of your season ticket, you're going to miss this one.
It's Bank Holiday Monday, April Fools. Make it a proper event. Get as many people in the ground as you can. Lower ticket prices. Just do something like that because you cannot sell me. You cannot sell me this game. You just cannot sell me Bristol Rovers against Shrewsbury. You cannot sell me that.
Another game you probably couldn't sell me a ticket for because I think this would be a romp. Unless Burton actually perform an April Fool's joke and actually show us they can play football. Is Burton versus Barnsley.
Do you know what? I can kind of see, on like the ITV highlights. I can see that being the intro to this game.
Yeah.
Barnsley thought they would come into this game and steamroll Burton, but it was April Fools for them as Burton Albion won.
That's going to be so heavily used, isn't it, on that Monday show?
It'll be horrific. Please, whoever's writing the scripts for those, please tell them not to. We'll go. That's kind of made me want to predict a Burton win.
Do it. Do it like you did for Callum.
No, we'll go 2-0 Barnsley. I can't do that.
I've gone 4-0 Barnsley because they're really good away from home. Cambridge United, who probably must win this game against Wigan Athletic.
Again, this will be Wigan seem to win, lose. So if they probably lose in the midweek on Friday, they'll win this game, and this will be the game that sends Cambridge into the bottom 4. So yeah, we'll go 2-0 Wigan.
2-0 Wigan. Yeah, I have gone for a 1-1 draw in that one, which is weird, but at some point Cambridge are going to sneak a point with a 90th minute equaliser because we're just at that time in the season. Now, we could have another cricket score here. Carlisle United versus Lincoln. They probably didn't want to play Posh and Lincoln back-to-back.
No, they are the... Oh, no, actually, Peterborough now. I think Peterborough have snuck ahead, especially if you look at like the last 6. Peterborough have actually snuck ahead of Portsmouth in the form table. But it's, Lincoln probably not the best teams you want to play. And I do feel for the Radio Lincolnshire commentators who normally would overnight this, right? A bit of inside knowledge. It's actually one of our summarisers' birthdays on the Sunday, so they're not overnighting it. They're driving up on the day from Lincoln to Carlisle. So 8:30 start, 8:30 leave to get to the ground in time for the show starting at about. Well, they have to get there at 1. So
they are going to be sleepy when they get there. I expect many mistakes.
It's going to be a long night for those two. But I think it'll be worth it. 3-0 Lincoln. Big crowd is expected there. I think they I can't remember off the top of my head, but they have sold a lot of tickets for that game. Have Lincoln. So yeah. Over 500 tickets for Carlisle. That's Lincoln
impressive.
City, 500 fans from Lincoln to Carlisle. I think it must be about a 4-hour trip, 4 or 5 hour trip to Carlisle.
At least, because you're going like in a diagonal sort of thing, aren't you?
Yeah, and obviously you've got the Humber, so it's not a direct line either. So, yeah, impressive travelling support for Lincoln, and we'll see if those 500 fans can bring it home.
So I've also gone for 3-0. You got Charlton Athletic versus Stevenage.
Come on, Charlton. I hated you at the start of this year, but please, 2-0.
2-0. I've gone 2-1 in that one. Stevenage will score a set piece at some point. Piagiani, I think, will be back for that, so he'll score and probably elbow someone else
and get sent off. Good.
Cheltenham Town, another must-win game. Exeter City at home.
Oh, it's interesting again, isn't it? Cheltenham. Exeter. I'll go with a 1-1. Again, it's not the type. This is the type of game that Cheltenham need to win to stay up. But Exeter are, I'm not going to say they're in good form, but they are unbeaten in 3, which I suppose for a mid-table side is all right. So, meh, we'll see.
Leighton Orient versus Peterborough.
Yeah, again, this isn't the type of game you want, is it?
No, not really.
Especially,
not really.
If you lose to Lincoln, like you predicted, then you'll lose to these as well, because you'll be so deflated from that Lincoln game. You'll lose to these, but you never know. So in the interest of me wanting Lincoln to succeed, despite all my predictions saying they'll lose, I'll go with a 2-0 Peterborough.
I've gone for 3-1 Peterborough in that.
Confident fan.
I'm very confident.
I want to talk.
Yeah. We got Northampton versus Port Vale. So another big game for Port Vale.
Yeah, but again, it's Northampton. It's whether they can get themselves fired up for the rest of the season at this point, isn't it?
Obviously, I think a lot of their players are actually out of contract, so a lot of them are probably playing for contracts as well.
But then it's a lot of them are playing for contracts, but a lot of them might have wandering eyes for other teams. The thing is, with a team like Northampton, if you stand out in that team, which the players who will stand out probably already have by this point of the season, the teams that you want to sign for will already have you on their radar at this point, won't they? So there's no point standing out for the last 5 games or so, because a lot of teams will have already made up their mind as to whether they want to headhunt an out of contract player. So, I'll go with Northampton Town, Port Vale. We'll go with. Do you know what? We'll go with a 1-0 Port Vale. I'm predicting them to win 3 games in a row, 1-0.
If that happens, I'll send a cream egg in the post.
Please do. I quite like them.
And then the final game, if I've done this correctly, is Oxford United versus Fleetwood Town.
This game's so weird, isn't it? Because it just is weird. Fleetwood Town again. It completely depends on their result at the weekend against
That's
Cheltenham.
why it's so difficult, this one. So I'm going to base it on they're going to get the result I've given them on Friday, which is not a good way of doing it, but
I'll go with a 0-0.
0-0. I have gone 1-0 to Fleetwood Town. So I've got Fleetwood to win both games over the Easter period.
I'll put them on 40 points and almost certainly out of the relegation zone. You're saying they'll go from 23rd to potentially even 19th in 4 days.
They're going to love me. If they ever see me in Fleetwood, please buy me fish and chips. That'd be very nice of you. Just because I've been nice to you this season. Other than the fact last week, I'm pretty sure I said they wouldn't stay up, and then looked at the table and be like, "Oh crap, yeah, they may stay up."
I don't think you're going to get the same treatment in Stevenage, are you? But...
Oh no, that they really don't like Orient for some reason. It's just one of them like forced rivalries that seems to have just happened. But hey ho, so that is
there we go.
The bumper episode, just over the hour. So we've not done too badly.
We've not failed.
Not as in depth as we wanted, but we've got to try and cover everything we can. And we had to really cover Pompey versus Derby at some point.
Yeah.
So if you have enjoyed, make sure you leave us a review on your favoured platform, and make sure you follow us on X. The League One Look is our Twitter, and enjoy your Easter period. And we'll see you most likely next week.
See you soon.